We just got to make sure that everything, you know what I'm saying, go to the YouTube appropriately. There we go. There we go. All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good people, great people, God's people. What the deal? What the deal? What the deal? We are back. We are back for another episode of the Antidote, brought to you by Professor Odi. Yeah, man. It's been a decent week. What y'all had going on? You know, I hope everybody's feeling good. You know, I hope everybody's doing well, feeling well, being well. You hear what I'm saying? So today we are here to talk about trying to fix women instead of fixing ourselves, right? Now, before we get into this, I need to let everybody know a couple of things. One, my one-on-one coaching slots are almost full. And if you would like to, you know what I'm saying, hop on my list to be a part of my one-on-one coaching, there's an application that you can fill out on my Instagram page. If you go to my link in my bio, it's my website, and then you click on the one-on-one coaching option, it'll take you to the application. If you are not ready to commit to that type of, intensity, you also have the two options of either being in my book club or joining Express Yourself Black Man, where I do a bi-weekly group coaching engagement. And yeah, so the book club is hosted also by ShareSpace. It is a new app that is in still development, still seed fund rounding, and I am an ambassador for that app. So the book club is where we have group coaching and we discuss books of the month that allow us to continue to dive deeper into these concepts and how it is that we can utilize them for our best ability in our lives. So the book of the month that we are talking about or discussing this month is The Spirit of Intimacy by Mbumfu Some. I really enjoy that book because it removes a lot of the colonialized perceptions that we have about how it is to engage with women and what to do with women as it relates to ourselves, right? Or not even just women, but femininity. You understand what I'm saying? So that's a space where, once again, the ShareSpace book club is my love book club. So if you go on Instagram and you DM me LUV, all capital letters, it'll give you access to sign up for that book club. The subscription is $6 a month, right? And actually, one of my members of my book club caught me on one of my roundtable discussions, and he got a whole session for $6. And usually my sessions cost like 10 times that. So it's very much so an opportunity for you to catch me in such a way where you have an opportunity to engage with me for a much lower price than what is usual for my one-on-one. So definitely get that a shot, get that an option. So once again, today we are talking about attempting to fix women instead of fixing ourselves, right? So as a young bull, right, as a young Thundercat, I was very much so in a space in my life where I felt as if though, I was not getting the same opportunities to engage with the quote unquote fairer sex as my peers, right? Now, before we get to that point, we need to get to the point of how it is that myself, Odilakachi, had to learn how to take accountability for himself before he began externalizing the issues of what was going on around him. So when I was younger, there were times where I had issues with accountability, right? And I had issues with accountability because one of my parents did not do well with emotional regulation, and they did not do well with accountability themselves, right? My father. And at times, I felt as if though people were attempting to blame me for something and then not give me the ability to state my case. So I got into a habit of not apologizing to people. I just wouldn't, right? I instead would say, they did this, and I need you to recognize that that's what they did. So I got in trouble at the Park District one time. And if you're from Chicago, you know about the Park District. It's basically a system of field houses and land that allows us as children in the Chicagoland area to go and experience community growth, development, stuff like that. So I got in trouble one time, and immediately when I got home, I started to say, this person did this. And my mother said, William, I want you to point. So I pointed. I don't know if y'all can see my finger on my hand. I pointed, and she said, William, when you point out one finger, 3 fingers point back at you. What does that mean? I said, I don't know. She says, that means that you need to evaluate yourself 3 times before you say that somebody did something. And you need to take accountability for what it is that you have done or how it is that you participated in that situation before you say somebody else has done something, right? So as a young boy, that just meant, to me, I'll tell you what I did. I'm still not apologizing for it, right? So on top of that, on top of learning how to take accountability, I had to learn how to apologize, right? Now, why am I telling this story? I'm telling this story for 3 reasons. 1, we as men have a tendency to blame because we are used to being blamed. We have a tendency to blame because we are used to being blamed. That's 1. 2, there's an overarching narrative that black women enable their sons to do things, which in a lot of ways is true, right? I've experienced women who have enabled their sons to be complete and total terrors in spaces, but it's usually because that woman has been traumatized in some way related to that child, or they are overprotective of that child because they believe that they are the only person that child has. So it leads into, or it could also be that that mother is attempting to emotionally enmesh that child within her own space because she does not have appropriate boundaries within herself because she has not learned how to heal from what has happened to her in her interpersonal dynamics, right? So what does that mean? Well, it means that black men usually exist at a very interesting intersection psychologically. Now, for me, it was my mother holding me accountable. It was my father taking very little accountability. And it was the people around me attempting to project onto me what it is that I was or who it is that I was based upon my stature. Because as a young boy, I was still, you know what I'm saying? I was still a big boy, you feel me? So people would try to make it seem as if though I was just, bullying people X, Y, Z, A, B, and C. As I got older, right, into my teenage years, when I learned that my intelligence was a bit higher than the rest of my peers, it taught me that I could then begin to weaponize my intelligence against people who questioned me in a sense, right? Or people who I felt were attempting to attack me. What does this have to do with fixing women? Glad you asked that question. A number of us as men do not like to be challenged because it forces us to see ourselves in a way that is deeply hurtful, right? For a lot of us. And when I say deeply hurtful, that's exactly what I mean. We as black men tend to respond in such a way where we say, oh, people are blaming us or people are bashing us. I don't completely disagree with that, but at the same time, I don't necessarily agree with it. And here's why. Because we as black men, some black men, right, have a very difficult time with embracing the negative parts of themselves because those negative parts of themselves are parts of themselves that they do not want to accept because they believe in a lot of ways that that's the only way that the world sees them, right? So what do? We attempt to overpower, we attempt to silence, and we attempt to shift, right? So that's what I did for a time. Once again, when I was younger, I attempted to blame, I attempted to shift, and I attempted to intercept thought processes that potentially would have held me accountable, right? When I was in high school, I was very arrogant, very, 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 very arrogant. And it was from a space of insecurity based upon my physical stature, right? So in that space, what began happening was that I began operating out of a space of low self-esteem. Operating from that space of low self-esteem created a dynamic where I perceived that people were, in a way, comparing me to my girlfriend at the time and making me feel less than. Now, this never, congealed into a despise or a disdain for black women, because that's not what happened. For me, as a man, what happened was I began to recognize how it is that what it is that I was doing was in a lot of ways conducive to what it is that people were saying, right? And I did not see it that way because I was so involved with how it is that I perceived or how I was feeling. Now, I'm not saying that what it is that I was feeling was incorrect, right? I'm not saying that, I'm not self-invalidating or self-betraying or saying that I should not have felt the way that I felt. What I'm saying is that I was not looking at how it is that I was contributing to this perception of myself, or how it is that I was contributing to some of these narratives that indicated that I was not the right fit for my girlfriend at the time. So, past high school and into college, I had to learn very quickly that my emotions are valid, but they are not absolute, right? My emotions are valid, but they are not absolute. So what I learned was how to begin asserting effective boundaries, not only just with the people around me, but with the person who caused me to feel as if though I had to, push so hard against a negative perception of me, which was my father. So what do all of these things mean? 3 things. 1, I had to be more in tune with who it is that I was as a person in order to be able to not necessarily defend, but take accountability for what it is that I know is in my repertoire. So in other words, if somebody says to me, Will, you got very aggressive on a point and you overpowered the conversation, I can't say immediately that that's not what happened, because I have a tendency to do that, especially if I feel impassioned or if I feel as if though somebody is attempting to label me, right? So I had to be more aware of the self. That's 1. 2, I had to be more indicative of my own purpose. And what does that mean? As a man, I understand that at times I feel as if though, I don't necessarily understand what being a man is, and I don't necessarily understand how manhood impacts the way that it is that I engage with other people and what that looks like. So I had to form my own purpose within my masculinity and create my own moral system within masculinity, because I did not agree with the moral systems that were at play, right? And I had to be strong enough in my own resolve in order to continue to behave and engage that way. And the third thing was I began listening to women more intently, but not necessarily to a degree where I internalized that I personally was the one that was causing them harm, unless they told me personally that I was the one causing them harm, right? Now, once again, what does this have to do with us fixing women instead of fixing ourselves? There are a number of men who are afraid to go internal because they believe that that internal is going to break them. Once again, there are a number of men who are afraid to go internal because they believe that that internal will break them, or they don't believe that having internal engagement is necessary because of how it is that we as men, particularly black men, have been unplugged from our emotions in order to serve and to purpose for other people, right? And we very rarely talk about, once again, I say it a lot, like men are talked about as sociological functions instead of individuals, and that definitely harms men. The reason why we have so many conversations around relationships as men is because we have been taught to define ourselves against women. It's the truth of the matter, right? So if we really explore what traditional masculine ideologies stipulate as manhood, one of them is sexual conquest, the other one, or another one, is domination, and another one is competition. A lot of these things crop up in relationships when men do not feel their best, right? I've heard women say, this man hates me, he's trying to compete with me, right? He just wants to, dominate, or not give me my own space to do what it is that I would like to do, and ultimately that leads into cheating, right? or for a number of engagements, it leads into cheating, whether it be physical or emotional. Now, why does this occur this way? Right? Odi, why are we, moving in these particular dynamics? Well, because most men do not know how to affirm themselves as men emotionally. They only know how to affirm themselves as men within the context of how it is that they engage with women. Sincerely, right? Particularly black men, because once again, historically, we have been locked out of the opportunity to perform masculinity in societal spaces because white men have been threatened by our ability to perform masculinity in societal spaces for so long that it is now a de facto thing to, in a lot of ways, be threatened by the presence of a black man instead of being led by the purpose of this black man, right? So the reason why I keep coming back to how it is that we as black men engage is because a lot of times when we say we feel like we are being bashed or we feel like we are being blamed, once again, I'm not saying that it's inaccurate, but I'm also saying that we have an emotional response to being called out because the overarching narrative of black men is overwhelmingly negative. It's overwhelmingly negative, despite the fact that positive, statistics about black men are going up, right? Black men are more likely to engage with their children. Black men are less likely to be in jail and go to college. Black men are more likely to engage in conversations now that are healing and whole. Like, black men are making progress, but we don't have conversations around that too often because, once again, it does not fit the extreme emotional narrative that drives a number of the ideologies of Reconstruction around how black men are. I find it very interesting that we as black men are not leading this narrative conversation. We're not, right? We are not the people who are saying to the world, like, nah, that's not really how it is that we need to move. And when we are leading these conversations, a lot of times it is into still these 19th century Victorian era roles that are no longer relevant, right? So when this conversation crops up between men and women, a number of men's initial response is to push back. A number of black men's initial responses is to push back, right? Brothers, I have a challenge for y'all, sincerely, right? I have a challenge for us. I want us to begin listening more intently for the things that we actually do. And what does that mean? Stop personalizing these conversations. These conversations are not personal. They may feel personal, but they're not personal. They're more societal, right? And if you are a black man who contributes to that societal conversation, then you need to check yourself. Right? Because what we attempt to do when we push back against women is we try to silence them from saying what it is that makes us upset, instead of identifying how it is that we do not resonate with that image of black men and then holding women to tab who, in a very real sense, attempt to persecute us based upon things that we have not done personally. Right? What do I mean by that? I have been in a myriad of situations where a woman was attempting to utilize what happened societally in order to indict me personally. And I said, okay, I understand where it is that you're coming from. And do you recognize how it is that what it is that I'm doing in a lot of ways is a defense mechanism or an anxiety response based upon how it is that you are engaging with me? Right? So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I'm almost certain that I made her upset. Because I don't like to get into like social media beefs and stuff like that. Like, I feel like that's real juvenile. I feel like it's very high school. But we were having a conversation about a large creator on TikTok who is embroiled in, a number of claims and issues and things of that nature. And I said, well, in a lot of ways, I cannot readily say that this is what happened if there is no, if there is no recollection or if there is no movement on what is being said, right? There's no evidence. Now, I am a firm believer in believe women when they say something. I am also very wary of how it is that we tend to move very quickly on emotion instead of what it is that truly occurred. So what bothered me about this conversation between myself and my friend was that the creator apologized, and then she said, there's no way that you can apologize for something that you've done 5 times. And I said, I hear that, right? And at the same time and of the same token, do you as a woman learn something as quickly as you learn it? Right? Do you learn something as quickly as you learn it? In other words, awareness and mastery do not come at the same time. They do not. So have you considered that this man is moving this way in either a trauma response, an anxiety response? Because this creator is very open about his trauma. And he's very open about, how things have transpired in his life, not only from black men, but black women. So why are we not giving him the grace of him responding this way? Now, she also said that there were some physical allegations, and I was like, yo, express, because once again, I don't get into social media beefs. I really don't. And the conversation unfortunately ended at that point because I feel like I kind of, ruffled her feathers, but it's fine, right? I don't want to sit here and justify or explain away men's behaviors, right? I don't. What I want to do is create a more thorough dialogue about why it is that black men potentially behave the way that they behave when it comes to some of the ways that we move, right? Because there have been times where I have been blamed for something that I did not do because I was responding in a either trauma or anxiety response. But because this woman had never run across a black man who was able to explain it to her that way, I felt minimized. I felt invalidated, and I felt as if though, things were not being seen in a way that were validating my traumas and validating my emotional patterns. Now, in this situation, I did not try to fix this woman. I did not try to silence her. What it is that I did was that I took what it is that she said about what it is that I was doing, and I went to go do research. Right? Am I actually doing this? Somebody called me a narcissist before, and I was like, whoa, wait a goddamn minute, right? And then my mind is like, but wait, like, am I being narcissistic in this way? Am I actually embodying the qualities and traits of a narcissist? Because one of the primary traits of narcissism is that the narcissist will not admit to themselves being a narcissist, right? And there's one creator on TikTok who's a self-aware narcissist, and I think this brother does excellent work in terms of self-evaluation and self-awareness. So that's a beautiful thing, right? But I would go as far as to say that when I was doing this research, the things that resonated with me or the things that made me nervous or anxious, I highlighted them, right? And what does that mean? That means that if it made me nervous or anxious as I'm reading it, in my mind and in my body and in my spirit, that means that it resonated. Right? That means that there is something in here that I'm afraid that I'm doing. So I must check it. I must evaluate it. Now, when I came back to the same friend, I said, I do not believe that I'm a narcissist. Right? I believe that you are perceiving me as being narcissistic because of how it is that I am moving based upon feeling as if though I need time and space for myself in order to figure out what is going on between the two of us at this moment in time. Right? Now, the narcissistic tendencies that I do have are a high sense of self and a high sense of self-importance. I do believe that I'm a very important person in my own mind. Do I project this onto other people? No, I try not to, right? But I firmly believe that I am, in a lot of ways, an important person. I believe that I'm important to myself, right? Here's the thing, though. That did not make her absolutely incorrect. And the reason being is because within men in the United States, narcissism is socially engineered. And what do I mean by that? We are rewarded as men, once again, for being competitive, for being dominating, and for sexual conquest over women. In order for us to get to that point, a lot of us become very self-absorbed, right? So when a woman comes to pop that bubble of self-absorption, our response is anger and pushback. That cannot always be the response. It can't, right? Because that's not a healthy response. It isn't, right? We as men are not great at sitting with our emotions. And if you want me to keep it a $1.50, like a buck 50, a number of us are responding from being hurt that somebody would call us that, because those are not our intentions. Not all of us. I don't believe that at all, right? So, for example, I was having a conversation with another friend of mine. Her name is Quinn Riley. She's a beautiful poet, amazing young woman, right? And we were at a event for her brother, and she called me a misogynist. I was like, oh, no, you didn't. Oh. That is a curse word to me. That is blasphemy. You do not call me that, right? But the conversation was about the R. Kelly trial. Now, let me be very clear. Let me be astoundingly clear. I am from Chicago, Illinois. I was born in the 90s in Chicago, Illinois. You were a default Robert Sylvester Kelly fan. Do you hear what I'm saying? Default. By default. But at this point, I was genuinely coming to reckoning with the fact, no, not R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, I'm sorry. That was another conversation with another person. The Bill Cosby trial, right? Now, at this point, I was firmly questioning what was going on with the Bill Cosby trial, and I was putting together all of the pieces and intersecting things in my mind with what was going on with the Bill Cosby trial. So our point of contention was her saying that she believed that he did it to all of these women, and I said, no. Do I believe that he did it to most of them? Absolutely. Do I believe that he did it to all of them? No. The reason being is because there is a significant history of white women utilizing the sexual overt bestiality of black men in order to continue to drive a narrative that these men should not be trusted. Now, Bill finna be out of jail. I don't know how I feel about that, right? And he finna go on tour. I also don't know how I feel about that, right? I feel like that's not a smart decision, and I feel like that's very dangerous. Because once again, I believe that he did a lot of it. I don't believe that he did all of it, right? Now, what does this mean for a number of men? It means that we have to learn how to be more critical at intersections where we are being categorized in a particular way. Because we cannot ignore the fact that men in 1950s, 1960s, 1970s Hollywoods utilized roofies, quaaludes, all of those types of things in order to, once again, take advantage of women. We cannot ignore that. And the probability of him doing that was very high. So in my mind, I'm like, there's a probability they did this to a lot of these women. But once again, he's black and a man in Hollywood. So there is a slim chance, or there is a slim denominator that did not happen with. Right? But once again, the accountability comes with who it is that he did it to and with. Right? We cannot deflect to say, oh, he didn't like, no. We're not talking about these here. We're talking about the people who were impacted. We're talking about the impact. Right? So a lot of us as black men like to throw out the baby with the bathwater because we don't want to be associated with the birth of the baby. Not how that works, gang. It's not how that works. Right? The accountability of the sociological engagements of black men lies on black men, and we need to take accountability for that. Right? We cannot consistently tell women, oh, you need to dress more conservatively. Oh, you need to learn how to not put yourself in them situations. Oh, you need to. Nah. That conversation needs to be had primarily by women, because those are their protective factors against a world that we as men have created to be dangerous. Oh, well, we as black men didn't do it. We participate in it. Right? Because when I talk about the race of domestic violence between black men and black women, yes, black women will hit me with the whataboutism of, well, what about the interviolent homicide rates or femicide rates? I understand they're very high. They are very high. Black women are more likely to experience not only domestic violence but femicide rates within the United States, right? But we do not talk about how it is that those statistics for domestic violence that does not include femicide, we don't talk about how it is that those numbers are very close. Like, they're only a couple of percentage points off. And the statistic that shocked me, the statistic that shocked me was that black men experience more psychological abuse they report more psychological abuse in their relationships than black women, right? And black women will say, oh, it's probably because woo. That's a strong probability. It's also a strong probability that a number of these black women are being overbearing or being psychologically assertive or aggressive with black men because that's how it is that they have been taught to engage with black men, right? That's how it is that we have been socially engineered to engage with one another. So how is that the accountability of black men, or how is that the responsibility of black men? Why do we continue to engage with these types of black women? Right? Why do we continue to sexually engage with these types of black women who we know cause us harm? Why do we not take the responsibility, not the accountability, right? Accountability is external, responsibility is internal, right? Well, in a lot of ways. Why do we not take the responsibility of learning ourselves more emotionally and learning how it is that we feel about these things while taking accountability to say, you know what, I agree with what it is that you're saying, but personally, I am not doing this. I'm not, right? I am not intentionally causing you harm. I am not intentionally rubbing you the wrong. I am not intentionally doing these things, right? But if you as a black man can say that you are not intentionally doing these things, that's awareness. That is not implementation. That is not execution. You are just stating your awareness. That is the first level of self-accountability. The first level, the easiest level, right? Because I can slap you in the face and say, yeah, I slapped you. That's awareness. I know I slapped you, right? What are you going to do as an individual to ensure that the next time something gets to that height, you don't physically assault somebody? Right? So I saw this video by Ace the Metaphor, and he said the whole Black Women Accountable movement is based upon us basically attempting to silence black women or to make them responsible for our ain't shitness by pointing out them being ain't shit. Ooh. I'm gonna say that one more time. Ace the Metaphor was talking about how it is that the whole Black Women Accountable movement is based upon us as black men wanting black women to accept us at our shittiest because some of them ain't shit. That's not how that go, gang. That's not how that go. That's not accountability. That's blame. And that's externalizing, not doing the work. Right? And I say to black men like this. So what you're telling me is the same way you say that black women will say, oh, I'm waiting for the right man to be feminine. That language, that I want you to accept me as a shitty man because you have ain't shit pieces of yourself, means that you are in a very real way externalizing your masculinity based upon how much this woman coddles you. And I do mean coddling at this point. This woman coddles you on your ain't shitness. My friend, that's not the way. You cannot do that nonsense and call yourself a man. You know, it's a be the real way to do something. Right? You cannot blame somebody else for you being ain't shit. Right? And I know that exists on both sides of the fence, but I'm talking to black men right now. You cannot blame somebody else for you being ain't shit. You can identify how that person has harmed you. You can identify how it is that that harm led to a response. But you cannot make that person accountable for your response. That's on you. right? That's on you. You cannot situate you being a good man on whether or not a woman is being a good woman, or whether or not women are being good women. Because I hear a lot of men say, oh, it ain't no use in being this type of man because these women, my friend Watts. My friend Watts. So what you're saying is that women have to be good women in order for you to be a good man? That's literally saying a woman has to be more feminine in order for me to be more masculine. Same language, different words. Right? Same language, different words. That's what it is, man. So once again, why are we so intent on fixing women? Where does that come from? Right? These modern women, listen. Listen. A modern woman needs a modern man. And I've said this before. Too many of us as black men are afraid to be modern men because we believe that that removes from our masculinity. The reality of the situation is, once again, I am not a bragging person. I am not a, I got all these, no. I am simply telling you the results of my self-improvement journey, my spiritual journey, and my awareness journey. There is no shortage of women on this side. There's actually a plethora of women on this side. And I'm telling you, the women that y'all are engaging with now are quickly realizing that even in their traditional ways, they do not want to deal with a man who is hyper-traditional. Because hyper-traditionalism does not exist anywhere but the church and within folks who still want to be like white folks. Not only that, fixing women implies that we as men still have governance over their autonomy. Bro, this is 2023, man. It is 2023. They have outlawed domestic violence laws that allowed us to beat on women. They have outlawed laws that made women men's property. Women don't even want to be engaged with us because we don't engage with ourselves appropriately. I cannot tell y'all how many times I've done relationship coaching or relationship therapy with women who have been asking me basically, how do I fix my man? You don't. You leave him. Because you cannot fix him. He has to fix himself. Because although you may have the tools, if he is not willing to pick them up, you are going to build an entire house by yourself that person has not informed you on how to build, and they're going to be irritated anyway. One, because probably you had the capability to build the house and he didn't. Or two, there was something that you did not build correctly and he does not have the emotional capacity to tell you. Fixing women is not the answer. Fixing women is not the answer. The answer is creating a more intersectional, a more wholesome, and a more holistic society through the people who drive society, who are mostly men. Right? We are the drivers of society. Black men, we are the drive. Even though people will say the black culture is matriarchal, and in a lot of ways it is, because that's more African centered. But matriarchal, once again, in the context of the United States, implies that women have all the power. Why is it a power struggle? Why? Why does the power struggle exist? Why does the energy not naturally flow through the community? Because we as black men are too concerned with power that we have not had. Not recognizing that the power that we are looking for, which is truly the power to revolutionize and to change, exists within ourselves already. Let me give y'all an example. Perfect example. Black men, for a lot of us, the reason why we cannot access the same heights as black women is because we made decisions in our childhood that were based upon us trying to grow up too fast or take care of things that were not our responsibility, but the responsibility was jettisoned upon us because another black man left. Or we just decided to be a hooligan because we believed that hooliganship is something that assists us in defining our masculinity, right? So I've had a number of brothers come to me and ask me, not how do I do this or how do I do that? Is this masculine? And when it comes down to black men, where they question their masculinity is at the intersection of aggression, rudeness, and willing to engage in reckless violence. And I will say to them, if you are with a black woman who believes that you are supposed to behave this way in order to be masculine, leave her. Leave her. Reckless and senseless violence on behalf of her, she wants you to be her puppet. She wants you to behave in this way so that she can feel more feminine. That's ridiculous. I cannot stand women like that. So you want me to be an externalization or a frontline person of your piss poor attitude? Absolutely not. Fix your shit. Fix it. Right? I've had black men ask me, brother, how can I be more masculine because this woman is whole? Fuck what she's saying. Fuck what she's saying. The same way I don't appreciate how black men are trying to tell black women how to be more feminine, I don't appreciate black women trying to tell black men how to be more masculine. Because 9 times out of 10, once again, you are expecting this man to engage in a gender role performance. It's annoying. It's annoying, right? You want to pick and choose the parts of the patriarchy that make you feel like a dainty little princess. Have you ever noticed? Have you ever wondered where that want or feeling comes from? So what you're telling me is that you want to be disempowered in a lot of ways. No, that's not what I'm saying. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You do not want to have the charge of having to lead something that you feel a man should be leading. Why do you feel a man should be leading that? Or it has to be a man that leads it. It's ridiculous. My bad, y'all. I'm trying to clear up my bowl. It was crazy. But that's ridiculous. That's a Eurocentral idea. Men are supposed to go to war. I don't think Queen Nzinga would wholly believe that. Right? Fixing women, once again, it's not the answer. It is creating a new dialogue around gender dynamics that includes the humanity of men. Because the old gender dynamics did not include the humanity of men. There are a number of men who feel highly disposable in this society, right? They feel as if though who it is that they are is not valued. But brother, do you value yourself enough to tell somebody that I'm not going to do that shit? I'm not doing that, right? I'm not going to perform these gender roles for you simply because you believe that in some way makes me more of a man. That's not how I define manhood. That's not how I define those features for myself. Right? And if you are willing to understand, if you are willing to come to a point where you recognize that my masculinity is how it is that I lead my life, you are welcome to follow me. But I am not going to sit here and define myself based upon whether or not you follow me, because I'm going to lead irregardless. right? People say that's not a word. Fuck y'all. It is a word. I'm going to lead irregardless, right? So, in short, I'm saying a couple things. One, we as men need to fix how it is that we define ourselves away from women. How we do that is we find our own purpose. We define our own masculinity. We identify the ways in which how masculinity is defined now is basically defined by how much of your soul or how much of your body you are willing to give in the name of protecting and providing. I don't know about y'all, but the only person who I'm willing to give up my body for is my wife, my mother, my sister, my nephew, my children, and a couple of my brothers and sisters, right? I got about, they're not my actual brothers and sisters, but they like my village brothers and sisters. Like, nah, G. Outside of that, that's asinine. But at the same time and of the same token, my expectation of my village is to be more intelligent about themselves so that I do not have to be placed in that situation. Because if you are constantly placing me in that type of situation, not only do you not care about me, you don't care about yourself. Ain't no way in hell, right? Because it's a number of women out here who's like, oh, these men zesty, these men, I know. These men are becoming more emotionally sound. These men are becoming more emotionally aware. These men are becoming more emotionally conscious, and they are able to point out where you are engaging in the same patriarchy that you swear that you don't like. And then y'all get into a tizzy. When I say y'all, I mean black women. Y'all get into a tizzy about, oh, these men don't want to, these men think that whoa. Are these not the same men that y'all asked for? Are these not the same open and honest men that you and your mothers and your grandmothers and your aunties, oh, I wish my man would cry in front of me. Oh, I wish my man would share. Oh, I wish my man would do this. But then when he starts holding you accountable, it's a problem. Because you believe the same way men believe that protecting and providing was enough. There's a part of you that believed that cooking, cleaning, and doing all these feminine roles was enough, and it's not. Because at the end of the day, that's still a performance. That is not your purpose. That is not who you are. That is what it is that you have been taught that you need to do. Right? So, fellas, how do we fix ourselves? How do we hold ourselves accountable without being prompted by women? You go where the pain starts. My bad, y'all. My finger kind of dirty. I've been digging in my bowl, right? This bowl. Relax, right? So how do we as men, once again, begin to heal ourselves and hold ourselves accountable without women prompting us, right? Step one, you go where the pain is. You go where the pain resides. If somebody says something about your masculinity and your manhood and it hurts your feelings, lean into that pain. Why does it hurt your feelings? Why does it make you feel less of a man? That's one. Two, we need to be very honest about the type of man that we want to be and take accountability for the outcomes of being that type of man. Right? I enjoy being a spiritually attuned, emotionally attuned man who prides himself on the amount of women that he makes feel safe instead of the amount of women that he conquests sexually. That is the type of man that I enjoy being. That comes with a particular level of responsibility of recognizing, one, like, bro, as much as I enjoy sex, I can't fuck everybody. I can't. I've recognized that I'm a man who's very easy to fall in love with. Very easy. Right? And the reality of the situation is I love y'all, but I can't be in love with all of y'all. Because some of y'all do not have the emotional intelligence quotient that I need to feel safe. That pussy popping and that neck dropping, but what that spirit look like, little baby? What that emotional control look like, little baby? Because you can be emotionally descriptive all day long. You can holler and scream, oh, you don't feel me, you don't understand. Baby, you screaming. And I'm a therapist. It don't take a rocket scientist to see that you upset. How have I harmed you? That's all I need to know. And then we'll go from there. Right? But you doing all this hollering and screaming, baby, I should get hollered and screamed at when I was a young boy. My daddy used to do that to me. And if I didn't answer him fast enough, I would get slapped, bro. Like, let's be very clear. You feel me? So you screaming and hollering at me is a trauma trigger for me. I will shut down, or I will get to a point where my voice will escalate because I am attempting to shut that out. I don't like that. Right? But once again, that goes into that psychological aggression. Once again, that goes into that psychological aggression that black men have experienced at the hands of black women. Right? That goes into this idea that black men need to be charged up in order for them to do something. Brother, do you know how we prevent that from happening? How do we prevent getting hollered at, screamed at, all that nut ass shit? Just do it. Do the work. Right? And then if you run across a woman who does not know how to control herself, the same way you have learned how to control yourself, you can hold her accountable to that. Ma'am, I am not screaming. I am not hollering. Oh, you being nonchalant. You being, no, I'm not. I'm exercising emotional control away from emotional and verbal abuse so that you do not feel as if though I am going to harm you. Right? Stop fucking these women who do not know how to emotionally control themselves. Stop engaging with these women who want you to be a man that they don't even recognize is a harmful and damaging man. Do not allow women to charge up your battery pack to say, this is what manhood is. Ma'am. No. Absolutely not. I understand where it is that you are coming from, but I define masculinity for myself. You are defining the type of man that you would like. And you can go find him. But I am not he. I am him. So, at the end of the day, brothers, once again, we have to do the internal self-work in order to produce a self that is to be respected, that is to be held in emotional regard and not just physical regard, and to be identified as a human and not just a man. Right? So good people, great people, God's people. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. I appreciate y'all for sitting with me this afternoon. I gotta go get ready, you know what I'm saying, do the therapy thing, do the mental health thing, you feel me? But if y'all want to continue to rock with me on the podcast, if you are on the Instagram live feed right now, go to my DMs and type the word Antidote, all capital letters, right? My bot will send you an opportunity to subscribe. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. You feel what I'm saying? If you are on the YouTube live, go back to my IG, right? Type in the word Antidote. The bot will give you what it is that it needs to give you, and we'll rock out from there. But once again, good people, great people, God's people, this has been another episode of The Antidote, and I appreciate y'all time, man. Rock with me. Hey, I'll see y'all later. Peace.